Hello and welcome to Acids Tech Tips. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the thermal grease from a processor and how to apply the thermal grease to a processor again. What we're going to do here is we are going to re-grease the processor that is on this motherboard and then reapply the cooler that we have here. So without further ado, let us get into it. First, what we need to do is we need to check that we have the right tools for the job. So here I have my cleaning kit, which is filled with lots of goodies. And in the cleaning kit we have our cleaning solvents. Here's my empty one, which is why I've replaced it. I have some more, and I'm going to just basically go through a few of the different kinds. You're going to need a cloth. It's always good to have a cloth just to clean up the little bit of a mess that you have. This would not be the cloth now that you use to wipe the grease off the processor. You could, but I would not recommend it. Instead, I would advise using a microfiber cloth, and I shall explain this a little bit more later on. You can pick up your microfiber cloth from a pharmacy or an applicator, or I would recommend going into a glasses shop, an optical store, and you'll have a lot more luck picking one up there. And lastly, we need thermal grease. So here we have our thermal grease, and then of course the little applicator to apply the grease. So let's take a look at these products individually. I'm just going to move the grease away. Let's move our cloths over here. So this was the solution that I used to clean my processor previously. The problem is it's a little difficult to get, but if you're able to get your hands on it, I would recommend picking it up. It's a nice solution. It's the mix basically eliminates the need for having a cleaner and then a purifier, which is what I have here. So if you can pick up this, I can recommend it. The only thing about this company that I do not like is that they choose not to reveal the chemicals that they use inside it. So I've decided not to pursue trying to pick this up anymore, just because of that secrecy that they feel they must have. I don't like a company who has things to hide. So I've decided to change my methods, and what I've done is I have picked up Clean. So here is actually let me start with this one. Here is the one that removes the processor thermal paste, and then this one, stage 2, is the one that polishes it up. It's the purifier to make sure that all of the grease and all of the cleaning fluid is completely wiped off, and that the surface is perfectly pure and clean and ready for a fresh application of thermal paste. These here have been developed specifically for cleaning GPUs and CPUs, and that is why I have these. If you are having difficulties getting these, there are plenty of other products which you can use. You can go into your pharmacy or your applicator and you can pick up isopropyl or isopropanol, whatever they choose to call it. Here's the bottle. Let me just see if I can improve the zoom on this. So let's remove our autofocus. Bear with me. There we go. And you can see it's not too expensive. And this basically is, in essence, rubbing alcohol. I like this particular one because it is a very high volume. It is a 97%. The higher the percent, the better. I would not really personally recommend getting anything lower than 90. Realistically, the lowest is 70%. You could and you can clean a processor with 70%, but this one here, of course, like I said, the higher the better. So this one here is 97 and does the job quite well. Another product that you can get, which is also in the rubbing alcohol range, is ethanol. It is literally the same thing. It's made from a slightly different grain. It's a tiny, the process is a little bit different, and this is 96%. It evaporates quite quickly, so this will do the trick as well. I would recommend firstly using isopropyl, and then secondly using ethanol. But both of these are cheap, and they can both be collected from your pharmacy. Next is the thermal grease. So I have here Prolimatech, which is quite good. I've used this a lot for high performance and overclocking systems. This is my go-to brand for really stepping up on processors, and I have to say I've been using it now for a long time, on ready to go all-in-one water-cooled systems, on modular water-cooled systems, and I've really cranked up the processors quite well, and it's done the job brilliantly. You can also get a standard premium grade from the company NOC Tool. This one here came with the cooler that we will be removing from the motherboard. It's quite good. It does the job. I mean, it's not very high-end stuff. It's not designed for overclocking systems. I'm sure it might work if you were doing an overclocking build, but to be honest with you, if you're going to crank that processor up high, I would recommend that you get a more dedicated thermal grease, one that has been built with a slightly different compound and formula. This is good stuff. It's good premium. I use it on basic builds, standard computers, ones that are just for really looking and surfing and not doing any hardcore stuff. And then my latest purchase is Chironaut, or Thermal Grizzly from Chironaut, and this stuff is also it's also created for very high performance systems, and is an overclocking paste as well. It's a little tiny bit more fluidy than the premium. So depending on what you're doing and what you need it for, you should pick your paste accordingly. To be honest, I don't think you can go wrong if you pick a paste that is dedicated for overclocking and put it on a system that you are not intending to overclock. So now you will need your applicator, of course, and I will show you how to use that when it's needed. So let me just click my terrible autofocus back on, and let us bring our motherboard over and get started. So, screwdriver, which you're going to need to remove the cooler, and let us do that now. I always recommend going in a crisscross, and just out of habit, since I'm loosening here, I'm also loosening in a crisscross. It helps to spread the thermal paste when you're applying it. When you tighten it up with a crisscross, it does like a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit this way, and it helps to get an even spread. Okay, the paste should keep the cooler on. Well, no, it popped off. And now let me just remove this. So, here we are. And I'm going to rotate it this way so that you have a bit of a better view. So there's the paste, and now we want to wipe that off, and we will also need to clean, of course, the cooler itself. So I'm going to first start with the cooler. Let me just move our motherboard over here. Okay, so I've got a little tissue paper, and I'm just going to take the bulk of the paste off, just lightly going over the surface. Just nice light glides over the top. So you can see now, if this thing will focus properly, that it looks more a little bit now like a wipe. And now I'm just going to take the tip of my cloth. I have a little propanol on that, and just give it a little wipe, and this should come right off. And now I'm just going to change to a clean spot and polish that up. Doing nice circular motions, because I'm not sure if you notice, but it is a circular motion on the actual contact point. Now there we go, that's coming up really, really nicely. Quick inspection, so there we are. Just like new. So let us move that out of the way, and let us do the same thing for our processor. I would like to just try and take the bulk off, and I want to try and keep it from going over the edge if I can. So I'm going to try and just scoop inwards, because it's a little bit tricky to clean over the edge with your cloth, I find. Super. So that's all the heavy duty stuff off. And I'm going to take another corner of my microfiber cloth. I'm just going to add a little more isopropyl to that. Just a little tiny drop is all you need. On another note, I just want to say, be careful with this stuff, okay? It is flammable. It may irritate your skin, so I do recommend cleaning your hands afterwards. Highly recommended not to drink it. That would not be wise at all. And of course, keep it away from your eyes. This stuff can do severe damage to your eyes should you get it in there. So if you do happen to get some of this into your eyes, it's straight to the doctor you should go. Yeah, that's come up really, really nicely. Now here we are good to go. This is, in essence, quite ready for some fresh paste. However, because of the kind of work I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to give it another go, and I'm going to use a material cleaner. This is not necessary, by the way. I'm just being super cautious and taking extra measures to make sure my surface is super clean. Excellent. Now, I don't know if you can see, but yeah, you can kind of see it here. It still is slowly evaporating off the surface of the processor. This stuff takes a moment, because like when you wipe on it, you can see that you're wetting the surface, and you just need to just give it a quick wipe and then give it a moment to evaporate, and you'll see it all kind of goes in and lifts off. And then lastly but not least, let us use our purifier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's all you need for that. Perfect. And let's just give this one here a quick purify as well. Lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to give those two just a couple of seconds to evaporate and dry out. I mean, they've already evaporated and dried out by now, but I'm just going to give them a couple more seconds and move my stuff to the side. Close up my stuff tight, because this, even when it is tight, sometimes because the alcohol is so thin, can leak out. So make sure you tighten all of your solvents. And now I'm going to put on some Prolimatech paste. I'm just going to give my CPU spreader a quick clean also. I want to make sure that the paste that was on it from cleaning has now been removed. And there we go. So, moving on. Now, when you're doing this with a graphical processor, a GPU, you can go crazy with your paste and really spread it all over the place and get it onto the PCB board and, you know, make a hell of a mess. And that's not so bad, because around the GPU there is not there's nothing that can be damaged. It's basically mostly just plastic PCB board. However, with the central processing unit, with the CPU, you do need to be a lot more careful. And the way, basically, you don't really want to go over these edges here. When you have the processor on, you can see that there is a corner line, and the idea is to get the paste basically around the processor, but not over the edges, so a nice even smooth. Now there's several ways to do this. You can make an X and then put the cooler on, and like I explained earlier on with your crisscross, and hope that it spreads out nicely. Or if you have a spreader, you can make a pea-sized ball of paste in the middle and then spread it out with the spreader, which is what we're going to do. So I would say just a little bit less than the size of a green pea, like that, should be perfect. So let me show you a little bit closer. so you kind of get an idea of the size. Just about a little tiny bit smaller than a green pea does the job nicely. And now spread it out nicely. So I'm gonna, you might not see all of this because I'm going to pay attention here, but I will show you the finished product when I'm done. So just bear with me uno momento while I do this. To try and eliminate the lines, just giving it a bit of a wipe to get the excess off. And I'm going to again just run over the surface to try and get this very, very smooth as I possibly can. The goal here is to try and do it so that there's not the possibility of air pockets occurring. So you don't want any lines with little rivets in between them where air could potentially get trapped. And that's it. There we are. It's a little tiny bit liney, but to be honest with you, I am very happy with that. Actually, let me just try and do our manual focus again so I can give you a much closer look. So we go to manual and get doing a one hand. Yeah. So I don't know how well you all can see that. I'm doing my best here to one-hand it. But if you can see, it is a little bit liney, but essentially it's quite smooth. And we don't have any that is going over the edges. I'm very happy with that. So now we are ready. Autofocus back on. Super duper. And now we are ready to reattach our cooler. Okay, so here we have, what do we have? It is the NOC Tool. I did an unboxing of this actually recently, so if you haven't seen it, check my videos and you will be able to find out. It is the NHL9i. It's an L-type, low-profile Noctua high-performance ITX motherboard processor cooler. This is really, really nice actually. I keep discovering things about it and I keep loving it. So the goal here, what you need to think about when you're placing this is here, flat, spins. So when this spins, the air is going to come out this way and that way. So you need to take a look at your board and realize, well, that's not really going to work so well there. Might not be so good if it's hot air is blowing here. We're going to have a RAM here, so air could be potentially blowing directly onto our RAM. And here is the back I/O where it's blocked by the I/O port. So you need to try and figure out and make a decision on what is the best place to position the fins to have the air coming out. And I haven't really been able to make up my mind on this. This is one of the tricky parts about ITX builds. So my initial feeling is to go with towards the RAM, because the RAM has pretty good cooling built into it. I'm using Hyper Fury. Here they are here, and you can see they've got really cool heat dissipators built into them. Or our other option would be to go sideways, like that. So this way, with hot air coming out, and have the heat hit the sound card and the capacitors, which have a really good heatsink there too. I think I'm probably going to go with against the RAM and the I/O, because the air can escape here and the I/O is made of metal, which is a little bit of a dissipator within itself. Okay, so let's do this then. Let's do this like they do on the Discovery Channel. What we need to do is we need to place our cooler first. Of course, don't touch that. You've got grease on your fingers. Even though your hands may be really clean, there's grease on your fingers, and of course you'll have to redo the whole process again if you do touch it, so don't touch it. When you're placing your cooler, think about where you're going to put the cable. So let's think about this now. Where is there's the header, and it's the CPU fan, so it's going to go on like this. There. We've got a lot of cable, and of course we want to do it this way. So I think will it reach around like that? It tucks nicely, yes, but that, oh, very nice. Alright, so here's something I've just spotted. To tighten your cable, you can potentially run it underneath, and the screw will still go through and the wire will not obstruct the ability of the screw to tighten to the processing cooling unit. So that's quite nice. So what I've done here now, you can see, and we have it towards the maybe I should do it. That's a much bigger cooling block. Okay, change of plan. I'm going to have it this way and that way. And I'm going to place it down tight like this. Let us get our fan in, so we don't need to worry about that. Keeping the cable tight and slowly lowering it down, making sure that it is positioned properly above the holes where the screws are going to go in. And at the last moment I'm just going to go down, and we're done. I'm going to give it a little wiggle, a little move around like this, and then I'm going to need to hold it into position and flip the board over. So I'm going to screw in this screw, this screw, this screw, check that my cable is pulled back, and then that screw, and that's how we're going to do this. So holding tight the center on the board, I'm flipping her over. I can see underneath that my holes are lined up. I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, you can just about see that. Yeah, so my holes are lined up, and I am going to manually pop in our screws. One, and in a crisscross motion, 2, 3, 4. Let's turn that bloody autofocus off so you can. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oops. 4. Tight. 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 And tight. Job done. Now, you should all know how to remove thermal paste, how to clean, and how to apply thermal paste. Let's just check our... Okay, I believe that should be alright. If it's a problem, however, it will not be the end of the world. Memory. Come here. Yes, it's a little bit tight. I might need to hold it up. Carefully, and yeah, perfect. And with a little tough lob, she fits in very nicely. I know it's a bit tight with the cable. I don't know if you can actually see that, but memory's in, and our hot air is blowing out this way and onto the MOSFET heatsink, which is dissipating in back towards me in this direction. So, thank you all for watching. The next step of this build will be placing the motherboard into the Node 202 ITX case, which will be very interesting. I implore you to tune in and watch. So yes, if you've got any questions about what I've done here today, please send an email to assetscript@gmail.com and I will be very happy to answer your questions.